Okay, it is 5:03. I'm going to go ahead and get started today. Welcome, everybody. Bienvenidos. Welcome to the June evening community meeting. Before we begin, I would like to go over our accessibility options. Simultaneous interpretation is being provided. Everyone will need to make a choice to listen to the presentation in either English or Spanish. To use the Zoom interpretation feature from a computer or a laptop, please scroll to the bottom of the Zoom screen where the meeting controls are. Then click Interpretation icon, select English or Spanish. And if you're using the Zoom mobile app from a phone or a tablet, click on the ellipses that say More, then Presentation, and then you can choose your language. To only hear the interpreted language, click Mute Original Audio. Please note American Sign Language is also available today, and we also offer captions for this meeting. To enable or disable captions, click the More button and choose Captions.
Hola, buenas tardes. Gracias por estar aquí en la reunión comunitaria de esta tarde. Antes de comenzar, vamos a repasar algunos puntos de accesibilidad. Estaremos proporcionando interpretación al español de forma simultánea y le demos las instrucciones para poder elegir su idioma. Le pedimos que aún así, al ser bilingüe, de todas formas, elija un canal para escuchar el idioma de su preferencia. Si nos está acompañando a través de una computadora, le pedimos que vaya a la parte inferior baja de su pantalla y presione el globo terráqueo para entonces tener acceso a los idiomas. Seleccione su idioma de preferencia, en este caso el español, y si solamente desea escuchar a el intérprete interpretando la sesión, puede usted apagar el audio original. Si en dado caso no ve el globo terráqueo, usted puede oprimir los 3 puntos o la parte que dice More o más para tener acceso a esto. Si nos acompaña a través de un teléfono inteligente o una tableta, usted podrá encontrar esta función apretando los 3 puntos en la parte superior de su pantalla, eligiendo el idioma al desglosar las opciones donde dice lenguaje de interpretación. Y es muy importante que al utilizar teléfono o tableta oprima la tecla que dice Done o terminado para acceder a la función. Muchísimas gracias. Thank you.
Next slide, please. Good evening, everyone. I am Jessica Monterrosa, an air pollution specialist, and my work here is focused in heavy-duty off-road incentive programs. I also coordinate equity and community engagement efforts with the Mobile Source Control Division Equity Workgroup. Today, I will be facilitating the evening community meeting in an effort to help with the coordination of the Clean Transportation Incentives Funding Plan, also known as the Funding Plan. Share program updates, and coordinate presentations on topics of public interest. I would like to take a minute to acknowledge the team of folks that help with the facilitation of these meetings. I have been the main lead facilitating this event over the last 6 months, and today will be the last time you see me facilitating these meetings. This role will now go over to Adelina Paez, who you may recognize, and we will also have staff Noemi Vitela taking over some of these responsibilities next month. For now, I want to thank all the staff, dozens of people that help coordinate these monthly efforts. Before we continue, there are a few housekeeping items that we need to address. The meeting is being recorded and will be available on our Meetings and Workshops webpage in about 2 weeks, including the agenda, slides, and attendee list. Staff will drop a link in the chat where this information can be found. Next slide, please. These meetings are about community and sharing information. Our meeting agreements are here to alleviate challenges and are as follows. Be respectful. Let's be kind and create a comfortable space for everyone to share their thoughts and experiences. Take space and/or make space. If you have a lot to say, great. we encourage you to ask questions. But please be mindful and leave room for others to participate as well. Listen to understand. Listen without judgment or jumping to conclusions. And finally, consider equity. We all aim to develop solutions with fairness and equality in mind. People from all over California are here to work together on the clean transportation incentives. These diverse perspectives can help us overcome barriers. With these agreements in mind, let us continue. Next slide, please. So what is the purpose of an evening community meeting? Our annual funding plan development process involves daytime public work groups and workshop meetings on various incentive projects. However, we understand that community members face unique challenges attending these meetings compared to representatives from industry, government, and non-governmental organizations. So CARB continues to host monthly community meetings to make it easier for community members and people not associated with an organization or a company to engage with us. If you do represent an organization or a company that can attend daytime meetings, we welcome you to listen to evening meetings to hear individual and community concerns. However, we ask you to please save your comments and questions and share them at daytime meetings so that evening community meetings can be a place for individuals and community members. Our goals for these meetings are to provide a space for community voices and priorities, brainstorm solutions for clean transportation needs, highlight key funding plan information, and foster ongoing communication between staff and the community. For tonight's presentation, we have a full agenda with 3 items covering recent work groups. We will introduce various staff members working on these multiple projects. So this is a unique meeting where you will see many of the team members from CARB today. First up for today's agenda, we have Stephanie Parent, Heather Choi, and Catherine Canepa giving us a summary of today's daytime funding plan meeting. This was the kickoff workshop, fiscal year 2025 to 2026 Clean Transportation Incentives Funding Plan. This will be followed by a 5-minute break. We will then continue with a presentation led by Michael Litwin on the public work group on the Zero-Emission Assurance Project, also known as ZAP. Our final presentation will be a summary from a recent implementation work group, fiscal year 2024-2025, Clean Truck and Bus Voucher Incentive Project, HVIP, Innovation Small E-Fleet Program, ISEF, and Clean Off-Road Equipment Voucher Incentive Project Core. And these will be facilitated by project leads for each respective program, Ender Atwell, Brianna Rocha, and Nicole Hutchinson. We will have a question and answer session after each subtopic. We will now start with the first part of the presentation to update us on the kickoff workshop, fiscal year 2025-2026, Clean Transportation Incentives Funding Plan. I'll hand it over to Stephanie.
Thanks, Jessica, and thanks for all of your hard work facilitating these evening community meetings for the past 6 months or so. We really appreciate it.
Thank you.
So good evening, everyone. My name is Stephanie Parent, and I facilitate our annual funding plan development process. And I'm sure this was just a minor oversight, but I'd just like to point out that I believe Matt Williams will also be presenting on our medium and heavy duty incentive projects as part of this recap of our funding plan workshop from today. So as I kind of just mentioned, we're going to recap today's kickoff workshop on the fiscal year 2025-26 Clean Transportation Incentives Funding Plan. And note that we also call it the funding plan. Next slide, please. So in this section, I'll cover a bit about CARB and our incentive programs, as well as what the funding plan is. And I realize that I've cut out some slides from earlier today, so I may have missed that in my speaking notes. But I'll go over the investment programs, policy drivers and kind of guiding documents on the funding plan. The main piece is that I'm going to cover our cumulative funding and how much of it has gone to priority populations, and what this year's budget is looking like, along with what the legislature passed late last week. And we'll talk about the incentive projects, and a little bit about this year's community survey. Next slide, please. So over the past decade, funds allocated to the variety of incentive projects in our portfolio that have benefited priority populations have increased overall, as you can see from the graph on this slide. Earlier projects, such as the Clean Vehicle Rebate Project and Clean Truck and Bus Voucher Incentive Project, which is also known as HVIP, focused on getting zero-emission vehicles and equipment into the mainstream. In fiscal year 2013-14, greenhouse gas reduction funds became available, and CARB was directed to tailor incentive projects toward people who live in disadvantaged communities. This is around the time the first Clean Cars for All projects began in the South Coast and the San Joaquin Valley Air Districts. As the graph shows, in fiscal year 2013-14, 0% of our incentive funds were specifically directed toward priority populations. As projects matured and more projects launched, we and our partners began to increase the percentage of funds benefiting priority populations. In fiscal year 2021-22, 53% of funds benefited priority populations. And for the past 2 fiscal years, 60% of funds benefited that same group. While only the Greenhouse Gas Reduction Fund requires a priority populations target, we apply the target to all the investments we make through the Clean Transportation Incentives Program. Next slide, please. The table on this slide includes the funding for clean transportation incentives that was proposed in the May revision to the governor's proposed budget. However, late last week, the legislature passed the state budget, so we'll also be sharing a few updates verbally that are different from what's shown on the slide. The budget that was passed by the legislature last week included approximately $35 million for the Air Quality Improvement Program that's shown on the slide. And this funds projects to reduce air pollution from the logistics, goods movement, off-road, warehouse, and port sector, with a focus on zero-emission projects. In recent years, this funding has supported zero-emission truck loans, vouchers for zero-emission off-road equipment through the Clean Off-Road Equipment Voucher Incentive Project, and funding to support emission truck loans, vouchers for zero-emission off-road equipment through the Clean Off-Road Equipment Voucher Incentive Project, and funding to support innovative strategies to help small fleets get into zero-emission vehicles. This is through our innovative Small E-Fleets pilot project. While not listed on this slide, the budget passed by the legislature also includes approximately $132 million from the Air Pollution Control Fund. This is for the Clean Truck and Bus Voucher Incentive Program. This program is better known as HVIP. It's important to note, apologies, we're still on the budget slide. I was trying to go a little slower and pause for our interpreters. It's important to note that even though the state budget for general fund dollars has been passed, the legislature and the governor's office are still negotiating the final budget for the Greenhouse Gas Reduction Fund. And they have until September 12th to pass bills that could amend the state budget by adding or removing funds that were previously appropriated. In the May revision, the governor identified high-speed rail and wildfire prevention and control as key priorities, with the expectation that the administration and the legislature would continue negotiations to design a complete greenhouse gas reduction fund expenditure plan. Finally, of note, this year, the legislature took early action to appropriate an additional $17 million for the Regional Clean Cars for All program, bringing the total appropriation to $19.8 million. Of this amount, funding was appropriated exclusively for the Regional Clean Cars for All program and will be prioritized for air districts that have insufficient funds to meet demand. This funding was appropriated through Assembly Bill 100, which was signed into law on April 14th. Of these funds, roughly $11.6 million will be allocated to the San Joaquin Valley Air Pollution Control District, and $7.1 million will be allocated to the Bay Area Air Quality Management District, and this is for their respective Clean Cars for All programs. CARB staff is currently working with the air districts to finalize grant agreements for the funding. In addition to our investment targets, CARB also reports regularly on how our investments and projects are progressing. Progress reports are often provided in the form of formal documents and public-facing tools, such as dashboards. These display program data in various ways. As you'll hear in later presentations, staff continues to define metrics for the projects we fund, collect data from these projects, and find ways to improve upon the way that we report outcomes from the investments that we make. Funding plan team wants to ensure that we provide a wide variety of ways that everyone, especially community members, can engage with CARB staff throughout the funding plan development process. One way community members can engage with us is through participation in daytime workshops and work groups and our monthly evening community meetings. We realize not everyone may feel comfortable talking in these forums. So, we also offer one-on-one meetings as well as a community survey. This year, we created an online request form for you to request a one-on-one meeting. Staff will drop the link in the chat. We're also in the process to update the community survey we began to offer in 2022. As soon as the community survey is ready, we'll send an email to our Clean Transportation Incentives listservs to let everyone know. Additionally, as I previously mentioned, you'll also have an opportunity to review and provide us with written comments on the proposed funding plan when it's released around mid-October. Moving into our incentive projects, we'll begin with our individual and community mobility incentive projects. These terms might sound different to some of you. As I mentioned earlier in the presentation, we also refer to the individual incentive projects as light-duty vehicle purchase incentive projects. For the community mobility incentive projects, we also refer to those as the Sustainable Community-Based Transportation Equity Incentive Projects. Today, we'll cover the community mobility incentive projects first. I'll now hand things over to my colleague Catherine to present on this topic.
Thanks, Steph. Hi, everybody. Nice to see you virtually. My name's Catherine Canepa. I'm an air pollution specialist at CARB, and I'll briefly provide a quick overview of the individual and community mobility incentives, and then I'll pass it over to Heather to provide the update on the mobility projects. So the individual and community mobility incentives help CARB to make progress on our institutional goals and help aid Californian communities. Overall, these investments strive to reduce greenhouse gas emissions and criteria pollutants to improve air quality and public health, to create an environment that accelerates zero-emission vehicle deployment to transform the state's fleet to clean vehicles, to prioritize funding projects within priority population areas to address socioeconomic disparities, in particular through funding community-identified solutions that help improve access to key destinations and increase the number of mobility options available to communities. Lastly, these investments strive to alleviate environmental harms that are disproportionately felt by some communities due to historical inequities. State-level directives, including Assembly Bill 617, Senate Bill 375, and Senate Bill 350 are a few of the drivers behind these goals, as they focus on improvements to environmental health. As an agency, CARB incorporates the equity principles of these directives into the fabric and design of every project and program. Next slide, please. So I'll quickly provide an overview of the individual and community mobility incentive offerings. These projects, which include both the vehicle purchase incentives and clean mobility investments, aim to improve the accessibility of clean transportation to communities throughout the state and facilitate the transition to more sustainable modes. Environmental harms are felt inequitably across the state, and these programs are intended to tailor investments to best meet the needs of different individuals and communities. So first on the left, we have the light-duty vehicle purchase incentives. These projects focus on supporting individuals and households with the purchase of zero-emission vehicles. On the slide is a high-level description of what each project is designed to do. To ensure we're meeting communities where they are, the programs use a variety of methods to distribute incentives, which include a needs-based model, application prioritization, technical assistance, and more. The projects in this portfolio include the Clean Cars for All programs, the Driving Clean Assistance Program, the California E-Bike Incentive Project, Access Clean California, and the California Integrated Travel Project, or CAL-ITP. On the right of the Venn diagram, we have the clean mobility incentives, which aim to address the transportation needs of Californians living in disadvantaged and low-income communities, and were developed with comprehensive community input and feedback. These projects provide funding to plan for and implement a variety of clean mobility solutions that can help folks get around without owning a personal car. The projects in this portfolio include statewide clean mobility options vouchers, regional clean mobility pilots, planning and capacity building grants, clean mobility in schools grants, and the Sustainable Transportation Equity Project grants. Thank you. The long-term plan for light-duty vehicles and clean mobility projects serves as CARB's long-term investment strategy for this portfolio of projects. It receives a major update every 3 years and covers 3 years of funding. The plan is a roadmap showing how state incentives can help sustain and grow the light-duty zero-emission vehicle market in California and provide solutions at the community level for clean transportation options. including zero emissions mobility options. The plan identifies priority areas for investment and outlines an estimated 3-year funding need for these programs. The long-term plan document includes several key elements. First, it provides an update on California's light-duty zero-emission vehicle market, including a trajectory analysis to reaching 2030 ZEV goals. A further discussion of what it would take to achieve a sustainable light-duty zero-emission vehicle market, touching on vehicle choice diversity, consumer awareness, and the impact of federal policies. It includes a light-duty vehicle affordability analysis, given the current incentive landscape, an analysis of 3-year funding need for CARB's light-duty vehicle and clean mobility projects, a discussion of staff's longer-term vision for these projects, and finally, the long-term plan serves as the annual supplemental report required by the 2018-2019 Budget Act. CARB staff will be holding public work groups to discuss updated information to be included in this year's plan. Next, I'll pass it over to my colleague Heather to go over the community mobility incentive projects.
Hi everybody. Let me get myself set up. Thanks, Catherine. And good evening, everyone. My name is Heather Choi. I am an air pollution specialist at CARB. And today I will be discussing our suite of mobility projects, formerly referred to as the Sustainable Community-Based Transportation Equity Incentive Projects. These projects include the regional and statewide clean mobility options, clean mobility in schools, planning and capacity building, and the Sustainable Transportation Equity Project. The mobility projects were not allocated funds in this fiscal year for 25-26, but we're going to talk about them and share some of the good work that we're doing. Next slide, please. First up, we have the Regional Clean Mobility Pilot Projects, which originated as the Targeted Car Sharing and Mobility Options in Disadvantaged Communities Pilot Project. I will be referring to them in this presentation as Disadvantaged Community Pilots or simply pilots. In the fiscal year 24-2015 funding plan, $3 million was awarded in April of that year to 2 regional electric vehicle or EV pilots. In April of 2017, $9.5 million was awarded to these 3 pilot projects. 1, a regional EV car sharing pilot expansion. 2, an EV shuttle service project. And 3, the agricultural worker van pool project. In fiscal year 2017 and 2018, another $8 million funded 2 pilot expansions and agricultural worker van pool expansion. And lastly, in fiscal year 2019-2020, $8.6 million funded expansions of 3 pilots and 1 EV shuttle service. Next slide, please. So now here is a list of the 7 pilots. 5 of the 7 regional pilots are completed. This includes Agricultural Worker Van Pools Pilot Project, Car Sharing and Mobility Hubs at Affordable Housing Pilot Project, Ecosystems of Shared Mobility in the San Joaquin Valley, Liftline Paratransit Dial-A-Ride EV Transition Program, and Valley Air ZEV Mobility Pilot Project. Blue LA's e-bike library component finishes in 2025 as final reporting for Blue LA, and our community car share wraps up later this year. Car sharing in our regional clean mobility pilot projects had a positive impact on people's daily lives and their well-being. CARB asked if the regional pilots improved priority populations' access to goods and services, such as grocery shopping, medical appointments, and other important errands or social visits. This was found to be true by a UC Berkeley study of Sacramento's Our Community Car Share. The study's surveys reported user increases in accessibility to essential destinations such as schools, grocery shopping, and healthcare. The Regional Clean Mobility Pilots Program transitioned to the statewide Clean Mobility Options Voucher Pilot Program, which is going to be discussed in the next few slides. Next slide, please. All right, now let's go statewide. The statewide Clean Mobility Options Voucher Pilot Program, or CMO, funds clean mobility projects vouchers for projects such as zero-emission car sharing, on-demand shuttles, bicycle and scooter sharing, and other clean mobility project modes intended to fill a community's transportation gaps for residents and provide access to key destinations. CMO previously funded community transportation needs assessments as well, but needs assessments efforts have now moved under the planning and capacity building umbrella, which I'll be talking about here tonight too. This program, CMO, has received $91.4 million allocated to date and has funded 36 community transportation needs assessments and 38 mobility projects. It's important to note that statewide CMO is administered by a great team that works hard to make sure the program operates consistently and supports the 74 grantees. The administrator team consists of CARB's grantee, called CalStart, and their partners, Shared Use Mobility Center, Emergent Labs, and Hartquist Strategies. Next slide, please. For a full list and project descriptions for the statewide CMO's 74 awardees, we encourage you to visit the Clean Mobility Options website, linked on this slide, and my colleague can also drop the link in the chat. The administrator team provides robust technical assistance to awardees to support project implementation. They also manage the Clean Mobility Equity Alliance, a peer learning network open to all clean mobility equity project implementers and partners, not just to CMO grantees. CMEA, the Clean Mobility Equity Alliance, hosts monthly working groups, provides tools and resources to members, and hosts an annual Clean Mobility Forum. The Clean Mobility Forum is an event focused on shared mobility and clean transportation, convening CMEA members, mobility project awardees, mobility operators, community-based organizations, and other experts in the clean transportation field. Potential policy changes staff will be exploring this year are modifying the current award amount and grant length for mobility projects, modifying the application process, and releasing a new administrator solicitation. Next slide, please. Thank you. So Clean Mobility in Schools funds a variety of clean transportation and supporting projects in and around school communities. Grants provide funding for zero-emission fleets, equipment, energy projects, active and alternative modes of transportation, planning, education, curriculum, workforce training, and more. believe it or not. Grants are typically $5 to $10 million and must include at least one public school to be involved and benefit from the grant. $62.1 million has been awarded to 8 unique projects selected from 2 solicitations. Potential policy changes staff will be exploring includes expanding project community eligibility criteria. Thank you. The first 3 Clean Mobility in Schools projects were impressively able to identify solutions to the unforeseen challenges COVID-19 injected just as the project prepared to launch in May of 2020. Each project featured strong partnerships with local leaders, utility providers, project partners, technology vendors, and dependable and innovative staff working together to create a sustainable, impactful model of clean mobility. For example, 39 battery electric school buses were deployed in disadvantaged communities. Infrastructure also supported early pilots of vehicle-to-grid technology. And 30 e-bikes launched at Lincoln High School in San Diego provided both students and staff to experience mobility without a car. A few of the lessons learned from these first school projects touch on the importance of planning with the broader community schools are located within. Building off those insights, the new set of grants were awarded through a joint request for applications in 2023 and launched by September of 2024. Implemented alongside the Sustainable Transportation Equity Project and the Planning and Capacity Building effort, the new projects located in Porterville, Watsonville, Hayward, and San Jose focus on alternative transportation solutions. A few highlights from these include bicycle and pedestrian infrastructure projects, car share and bike share projects, and broad communication and outreach campaigns like open streets, traffic gardens, and transit ambassadors. Next slide. Now we'll talk about the Sustainable Transportation Equity Project, or STEP, S-T-E-P, but I'll just say STEP. STEP funds community-led transportation grants that increase access to key destinations while reducing vehicle miles traveled. Each STEP grant includes multiple project types within one priority community that work together to make it easier for people to get around without owning a car. This place-based investment approach encourages growing and building new connections between existing transportation networks. STEP funds a long and flexible list of eligible project types to enable communities to develop holistic projects meeting their specific local needs. STEP project types include planning and community engagement, pedestrian and bike infrastructure, urban greening, zero-emission transit, and more. To date, STEP has been allocated $77.9 million. This funding has gone to 11 implementation grants, 5 of which were awarded in a 2020 solicitation, and 6 of which were awarded in the 2023 joint request for applications I had mentioned earlier. For the next year, STEP will continue supporting existing grantees and improving administrative processes. Grantee feedback, analysis of past applications, and outreach may shape program priorities for a future solicitation. Now you can see on this slide the list of projects from STEP. The 11 implementation projects funded by STEP are located in low-income and disadvantaged communities across the state primarily within the core of metropolitan areas. While many of these neighborhoods are close to robust local and regional transportation networks, first mile, last mile barriers often make it hard to use these systems to access key destinations. With grant amounts generally in the range of 3 to 13 million, STEP has taken the approach of trying to build and strengthen connections to these existing transportation networks, which is fairly unique among the state's transportation funding programs. In 2025, STEP closed out their first 2 grants from the first solicitation, Commerce Moving Forward and Stockton Mobility Collective grants. STEP grantees have recently received awards in recognition of their work to advance clean mobility in disadvantaged communities. The Stockton Mobility Collective received the Eureka Award from the California Association of Councils of Governments. And San Francisco's Bayview Shuttle received the Opportunity and Empowerment Award from the California chapter of the American Planning Association. Planning, now we'll talk about planning and capacity building. Also, we'll refer to it in short by just calling it planning. Planning helps communities lead efforts to find new and better transportation options. It focuses on building local skills and making clean, shared, and active transportation easier to access. These projects include planning for better transportation, job training, and strengthening local organizations, especially in low-income areas with limited options. Planning also aims to include people who haven't been part of transportation decisions in the past. As a dedicated category, $14.9 million has been committed to planning and capacity building. So far, 7 planning grants are in progress, and we plan to fund up to 15 more projects through a new request for applications coming this summer. Based on community feedback, we want to prioritize eligible applications submitted through our upcoming request for applications, even if we can't fund them right away. If additional funding becomes available, those unfunded but eligible proposals will be first in line for support. And maybe one of my colleagues can drop a link in the chat for the upcoming RFA website. Okay, so now here is the list of planning grants. The first 7 projects currently underway focus on areas in Needles, Napa, Sacramento, the San Joaquin Valley, Alameda, and Los Angeles. These projects range from planning safe routes to school and building electric vehicle infrastructure to creating clean transportation mobility hubs. The next 8 projects in this list have been completed. Completed planning grants cover places like Bakersfield, South El Monte, Isla Vista, East Oakland, and San Bernardino County. These efforts helped lay the groundwork for clean, active, and shared transportation options while strengthening community involvement and local capacity. Notably, 2 of these planning efforts, led by Omnitrans and City Heights, successfully secured additional funding through STEP, showing strong momentum and community impact. Together, these initiatives are building stronger, more equitable transportation systems that better serve communities with the greatest need for innovative transportation solutions. I'll now hand things over to my colleague, Catherine, to present on the light-duty vehicle purchase incentive projects.
Hey again, everybody. I'm about to provide a brief overview and updates for the light-duty vehicle purchase incentive projects. As I mentioned before, these include the Clean Cars for All programs, the Driving Clean Assistance Program, the California E-Bike Incentive Project, Access Clean California, the Zero-Emission Assurance Project, or ZAP, and the California Integrated Travel Project. Next slide, please. The Driving Clean Assistance Program expands access to Clean Cars for All incentives up to $12,500 towards the purchase or lease of a zero-emission vehicle outside of the 5 largest air districts into areas of the state that have not had access to a regional Clean Cars for All program. This program also connects participants to a capped interest rate loan of 8% and provides incentives towards charging solutions. The Drive Clean Assistance Program is also designed to be a complementary option to the regional Clean Cars for All programs by providing a pathway for non-scrap incentives. By enabling both a scrap and a non-scrap option, consumers would be able to build their incentive, creating flexibility best suited for them and their needs. The Drive Clean Assistance Program is currently available to all regions of the state and is accepting applications for non-scrap options to participants living in regional Clean Cars for All regions. In addition to providing non-scrap incentives, the program also uses the needs-based model, which enables consistent and continuous access to incentives regardless of geography. So with that, I'll provide a status update for the Driving Clean Assistance Program, which is administered by the Community Housing Development Corporation. To date, around $241 million has been allocated to DCAP. The Driving Clean Assistance Program started accepting applications initially from Imperial Valley residents, beginning in September 2024, and has since opened to the rest of the state, following a staggered monthly rollout to ensure equitable access to incentives. As of March 25th of this year, the Driving Clean Assistance Program is now available to the regional Clean Cars for All regions for non-scrap options. Since the project opened statewide in March, 46 projects have been funded, but over 16,000 applications, representing $196 million in demand, have been received and are currently being processed. It's important to note that the Driving Clean Assistance Program application process can take up to 3 months to complete, as it requires applicants to complete financial counseling, among other steps. So as such, we expect the number of funded projects will rise significantly above 46 in the coming weeks and months. There are no new funding allocations for this program this year, but staff is exploring different ways to align program requirements and eligibility criteria to the regional Clean Cars for All programs. Next slide, please. Perfect, thanks. The Regional Clean Cars for All program is a scrap and replace program that provides incentives of up to $12,000 to low-income consumers as they replace their higher polluting vehicles with cleaner transportation. The regional programs are currently administered by the 5 largest air districts in California. No funding has been allocated this year, but other funding was recently made available through Carl Moyer State Reserve co-funding and Assembly Bill 100. Since the program inception, about $357 million has been allocated to the regional programs, and 26,053 vehicles have been replaced. Staff are exploring several policy changes that all aim for additional alignment between different incentive programs. For example, we are looking to align on income verification, household size definitions, approved dealer lists, and program closure procedures. Next slide, please. The Zero-Emission Assurance Project, also known as ZAP, was established to help lower-income Californians reduce the risk of buying a used zero-emission vehicle or a near-zero-emission vehicle, which is also known as a plug-in hybrid, by providing a rebate or vehicle service contract for the replacement battery or fuel cell components. Repair costs are a significant barrier to entry for lower-income Californians. ZAP complements CARB's light-duty vehicle purchase incentive programs such as Clean Cars for All and the Driving Clean Assistance Program, by helping to alleviate low-income residents' concerns about premature battery degradation, resulting in reduced vehicle performance, vehicle depreciation, and costly repairs. In our last two public work groups, CARB staff discussed eligibility, policies, and proposed implementation for the Zero-Emission Assurance Project. Staff plans to hold one last public work group to discuss launch specifics, with a hope of launching the program by the end of the summer. $9.9 million was allocated in 2022, and no new funding has been allocated this year. Next slide, please. Access Clean California helps to streamline access and coordinate outreach for clean transportation incentives in priority communities, with the goal to spread the word about CARB's vehicle purchase incentives to those who need them most. About $22 million has been allocated to date. Grid Alternatives, who is the program administrator, organizes a statewide network of 31 outreach partners and counting, an application support web tool called the Benefits Finder, a case management team that helps individuals get their incentive applications in, and a technical assistance and capacity building pilot program dedicated to bringing more nonprofit and community-based organizations into the fold to support communities in learning about and receiving the clean transportation incentives. The Access Clean California team has recently grown their outreach network and the capacity of their case management team to respond to needs on the ground. No policy changes are proposed for this year. The California E-Bike Incentive Project aims to provide electric bicycle or e-bike incentives to low-income Californian residents of 18 years or older. The project goals include reducing greenhouse gas emissions, vehicle miles traveled, and providing access to clean transportation options for residents who need them most. Over $2 million has been awarded for e-bike incentives. No funding is allocated in this year's budget. Staff are monitoring the effects of tariffs on supply chains and e-bike prices. Staff will consider altering the incentive structure in the event tariffs present significant barriers for low-income households to purchase an e-bike with the current incentive amounts. Staff may hold a public work group to solicit feedback on the incentive structure later this year for a potential policy change to the incentive structure. Next slide, please. Since 2022, CARB has engaged the California Integrated Travel Project, or CAL-ITP, to provide targeted payments and data innovation support related to the equitable mobility incentive programs. CAL-ITP is a joint project between Caltrans, California's Department of Transportation, and the California State Transportation Agency, known as CalSTA. CAL-ITP focuses on challenging policy and technology issues at the intersection of sustainable transportation and payments. CARB and CAL-ITP conducted research about the adoption of contactless payments at EV chargers across California to help CARB's regulatory teams develop legal requirements for payment acceptance technologies. As a follow-up, CAL-ITP helped structure and deploy a pilot program to utilize contactless payments using prepaid debit cards to distribute charging subsidy funds in partnership with Valley Clean Air Now, or also known as Valley CAN. This research project helped validate bank cards as an innovative, user-friendly, and efficient vehicle for distribution of CARB funds, and sparked the ongoing collaboration between our teams. Next, I'll be turning it over to Matt Williams to present on the medium and heavy-duty on- and off-road vehicle and equipment incentive projects.
Thanks, Catherine. Hello, everyone. My name is Matt Williams, and I'm an air pollution specialist at CARB, and I'll be presenting on our medium and heavy-duty investments. Next slide, please. Overall, our medium and heavy-duty on- and off-road equipment investments strive to improve air quality and reduce greenhouse gas emissions, continue to build on efforts to ensure investments support our equity goals, strategically focus on priority populations by expanding support for small businesses, public agencies, and disadvantaged communities, focus on reducing barriers for small fleets through financial and non-financial mechanisms, and collaborate with community partners, air districts, and other state and local agencies. Next slide. Thanks. The Heavy Duty Investment Strategy is CARB's long-term guidance document for clean transportation incentives funding, that being from low carbon transportation investments and the Air Quality Improvement Program. It covers 3 fiscal years, beginning with the upcoming budget year, and is updated annually. The strategy serves as a roadmap showing how state incentives can help spark private sector investment and create partnerships necessary to support the acceleration of clean technology advancement and market deployment in the heavy-duty on- and off-road sectors. It identifies key priority areas for investment that will help maintain market momentum to reduce emissions from the heavy-duty space. Each year, the Heavy Duty Investment Strategy document includes several key elements. This year's document will include an updated discussion of how our investments drive technology advancement and market adoption of clean heavy-duty technologies that will allow the state to meet its climate and air quality goals. Updates on the current status of clean heavy-duty vehicle and equipment technologies and their respective markets, ways to report on the metrics of investment success, an updated 3-year set of recommendations for heavy-duty vehicle and off-road investments, the ways CARB is focusing investments on the communities and small businesses in greatest need of assistance, and an annual report on the progress we've made towards cleaning up the state school bus fleet. Much like our consumer and sustainable equity incentive projects for light-duty vehicles, these projects have typically focused on bringing cleaner technologies to the heavy-duty sector and supporting the state's air quality and climate change goals. All of these projects work together. Shift demonstration and pilot projects advance technology and prepare early markets. Voucher incentives reduce the purchase price of commercial options. Truck loans help under-resourced businesses acquire clean technologies, and supporting services like Cal Fleet Advisor help fleets deploy successfully. All of the projects you see here include support for small fleets and businesses, with the Zero-Emission Truck Loan Pilot and ISEF, or Innovative Small E-Fleets, designed specifically to help meet their unique needs. The Zero-Emission Truck Loan Pilot Program provides loan assistance for the purchase of zero-emissions trucks. The program works by providing qualified lenders with a loan loss reserve account. For each qualified loan enrolled in the program, CARB will put 25% of the loan amount into the account. In the event of a loan default, the lender can submit a claim to recover their losses. With these funds available, lenders are better equipped to lend to businesses that need more assistance and may typically offer more favorable terms than they would otherwise qualify for. A total of $14 million is available to support the program, and staff is not recommending policy or funding changes in this year's funding plan. The Sustainable Heavy Duty Initiatives for Future Technology, or SHIFT program, previously known as the Advanced Technology Demonstration and Pilot Project Program, was established in 2009. The goal of the program is to accelerate the adoption of pre-commercial technologies into the marketplace and to support commercialized technologies that would benefit from at-scale pilot projects to showcase technical feasibility and economic viability. Since its inception, this program has allocated over $600 million for 35 projects, with over 690 vehicles and equipment deployed. In addition to this, the most recent solicitation was held in 2023 and provided $175 million in funding, resulting in 12 new projects, 8 of which have been executed. CARB has also onboarded a third-party administrator, EPRI, and they are helping facilitate administrative activities to support the CARB project liaisons and grantees with implementation of these projects. The Zero-Emission School Bus and Infrastructure Project, or ZESB, is a joint program between CARB and the California Energy Commission, or CEC. It's designed to replace the oldest public school buses in the state with new zero-emission school buses and their supporting infrastructure. The entire $500 million appropriation has been reserved for 144 projects, totaling 1,000 new zero-emission buses and their supporting infrastructure. We anticipate these projects to be finalized later this year and look forward to having new zero-emission school buses on the road shortly thereafter. The Clean Truck and Bus Voucher Incentive Project, better known as HVIP, provides point-of-sale discounts to help reduce the upfront cost of zero-emission trucks and buses. By doing so, we're helping to drive the adoption of the cleanest technologies available in the commercial vehicle sector, supporting both air quality and climate goals. As of November 2024, project funding has been fully subscribed, a strong indicator of robust market interest. We anticipate reopening the program in the third quarter of 2025 using limited funds that become available from canceled or unredeemed vouchers. To date, we've helped fund more than 15,000 vehicles with a total program allocation of $1.64 billion, a significant investment in California's clean transportation future. Next slide, please. The Innovative Small E-Fleet Pilot Project, ISEF for short, offers vouchers for small fleets to access zero-emission technologies. ISEF provides fleets innovative solutions such as all-inclusive leases, truck as a service, rentals, and other mechanisms. ISEF has been allocated $70 million to date and has funded 118 vouchers. The number of vouchers redeemed increases as processing progresses. ISEF is temporarily closed due to the exhaustion of funds driven by high demand. It is anticipated to reopen in August 2025 following the release of an updated implementation manual and system processing updates. The current proposal for this year's funding plan is to allocate $5 million of the HVIP appropriation to continue to support innovative projects. Over the last year, staff has explored new solutions to barriers small fleets face when adopting zero-emission technology, such as access to infrastructure or insurance for heavy-duty ZEVs, and how to potentially provide advanced fleet management services for when an entity incorporates a ZEV into their fleet. In addition, staff will continue exploring the potential design of a used truck voucher pilot concept for this fiscal year, 2025-26. The pilot concept would leverage and build upon the broad portfolio of creative, innovative solutions already in ISEF. Staff held a work group meeting on these concepts on June 13th, 2025. A used vehicle voucher program could help foster the market by reducing costs and increasing the supply of vehicles. It would also allow CARB to collect valuable information to understand challenges as the market develops and to also inform future policies. We would also be careful to not create a program that would inflate the prices. In addition, insurance assistance and ongoing fleet management would help fleets successfully add these vehicles to their fleets. Next slide. Thanks. The Clean Off-Road Equipment Voucher Incentive Project, or CORE, is a first-come, first-served program designed to accelerate the deployment of advanced off-road technology by making it easier for fleets to access funding. This access to funding helps cover the higher upfront costs that come with new technologies. Additionally, there are extra funding enhancements available for infrastructure that supports the equipment, small businesses, and purchasers domiciled in disadvantaged communities. So far, the project has funded over 3,000 pieces of equipment and supported more than 700 businesses and fleets. CORE has also made it a priority to invest in priority populations, including low-income and disadvantaged communities, with 70% of project funds going to these communities. For fiscal year 2025-26, CORE staff are looking at the definition for commercial readiness and considering modifications to the definition, or alternatively, modifying the program to create greater accountability for OEMs entering the core catalog. We look forward to gathering information from stakeholders on this in an upcoming work group. I think that's the end of my slides.
Thanks, Matt. So I want to remind everyone of our open door policy. And especially for those that are most affected by our incentive projects. We encourage you to contact us for one-on-one discussion about your needs, concerns, and potential solutions. We have a new funding plan engagement opportunities webpage where you can find our online meeting request form, a link to sign up for our listserv to receive email updates, and our calendar of meetings. And staff will share the link for that in the chat. You can also reach us at the email addresses provided on the slide and our general email box, cleantransportationincentives@arb.ca.gov. We appreciate your engagement with us to develop the funding plan, and we look forward to collaborating with you on it this year.
Okay, thank you, funding plan team, for your presentations. I'll hand it over to Denise to facilitate the question and answer portion of the presentation.
Thank you, Jessica. We'll now open the floor for questions and comments regarding this part of the presentation. To ask a question or make a comment using Zoom desktop, click Raise Hand under the Participants tab. Using Zoom Mobile, tap Raise Hand in the More tab. And by phone, please press *2 to raise your hand. You may also email questions to cleantransportationincentives@arb.ca.gov. This email address will be posted in the chat in both English and Spanish. Please include your name and affiliation, if any, with your question or comment, and note that our email monitor will notify us if your question in real time. So I see that Noam is currently has a raised hand, so go ahead and unmute yourself, please.
Hi there, my name is Noam Elroy, and I work at Environmental and Energy Consulting. And I totally just may have missed it, but I was curious if that 3-year plan for the heavy duty incentives, where and when that will be out, and just hoping to really look at the details for that.
Sure thing. The heavy duty investment strategy is published annually. It is an appendix to the funding plan because it's in a companion document. So you'll find it as Appendix D, as in Delta, to each of our funding plans since, I believe, 2017. So if you want to take a look at the current one from fiscal year 24-25, you can find that on our website.
Okay, thank you very much.
Okay, it looks like there's no other currently raised hands or any questions sent via email just yet. Oh, we have one from Emily.
Yeah. Oh, sorry, can you hear me?
Yes, go ahead.
Okay, sorry. Yeah, my name is Emily Stevens. I'm from TRC. And I just wanted to confirm, out of the 35 million that's allocated from the Air Quality Improvement Fund, the only proposed allocation so far is that 5 million to ISEF. I just wanted to confirm that that was the only one that I caught.
Yeah, so we haven't finalized the allocations from that appropriation. We can't do that until the budget has been finalized. We do want to signal early that we intend to provide funding to ISEF out of the HVIP appropriation should we receive it in the final budget.
Perfect. Thank you so much. And sorry for interrupting.
Not a problem.
All right, it looks like there's no other hands raised right now or anything sent via email just yet. So if that's it, we could move on to the next part of the presentation.
Sorry, could I ask one more question?
Yes, go ahead.
I was curious. I think I just found the right thing. This Appendix D. I see a lot of this is phrased as like the staff recommendations. Um, if I'm looking at the right thing, is this something that the staff creates is Appendix D like essentially staff recommendations and then the board votes on those?
Essentially, there are two primary components when considering our long-term strategy documents in the annual funding plan. While together published, they are entirely different. The funding plan makes actual policy changes and allocates or programs the funding that is appropriated to CARB in a given budget year. Meanwhile, the strategy documents, like the long-term heavy-duty investment strategy, are roadmap documents and are developed in a vacuum, if you will. They're not based on an actual budget appropriation, but rather what CARB sees as being the necessary levels and placements of investments in the future to meet our longer term goals. So the heavy duty investment strategy is scoped starting in the next budget year and the following two, and looks at where we need to go and how to get there, makes recommendations for the priority investment areas and the types of technologies or projects that would be most suitable for investment, and estimates the levels of investment needed. But these levels do not approach what is needed to transform the entire market, only to maintain momentum. This guidance document is used to signal to our stakeholders, as well as government broadly, what we think is necessary. Ultimately, though, it is the appropriation from the legislature in any given budget year that we actually have to work with. Does that
Right.
answer your question?
Yeah, that totally makes sense. And then is this something just that the staff puts out? It's out there, and then the appropriations for the next budget year happen, and then after that happens, you guys decide exactly how you're going to spend that, and then the board approves that spending plan. Does that sound right?
Essentially, what the board does approve the entire package, which is inclusive of the funding plan and all of the appendices.
Yeah.
Really, what the board is voting on is the allocation and programming of appropriated funds and any policies that are included in the funding plan. The strategy documents like the investment strategy can help guide the decisions that are made in the funding plan, but that is not the policy document itself per se.
Okay. Now I think I understand what you're saying now. Thank you.
Mhm.
Okay, thank you, Denise, and thank you everybody who submitted questions or comments. These ideas always help improve the funding plan programs. We are a little bit over time, but we'll still give everybody about a 3-minute break to return at 6:16 with our next presentation. Thank you. Okay, everybody, about 3 minutes have passed and it's about 6:16. So now we will continue with our next presentation. We have Michael Litwin summarizing the recent public work group on the Zero Emission Assurance Project, otherwise known as ZEP. Take it away, Michael.
Thank you, Jessica. And all right, good evening, everyone. I'm going to go over some information presented in the Zero Emission Assurance Project work group from April 3rd. For background, ZAP was established to help lower income Californians reduce the risk of buying a used zero emission vehicle, ZEV, or near zero emission vehicle, NZEV, or a plug-in hybrid by providing a rebate or vehicle service contract for the recipients or battery or fuel cell components, replacement of battery or fuel cell components. Repair costs are often a significant barrier to entry for lower income Californians. The Zero Emission Assurance Program complements CARB's light duty vehicle and purchase incentives programs, such as Clean Cars for All and financing assistance, by helping to alleviate low-income residents' concerns about premature battery degradation, resulting in reduced vehicle performance, vehicle depreciation, and costly repairs. Referring to the past meetings from August 6th that helped create this list in our August 6th work group meeting last year, we went over the ZAP, the eligibility and policies for ZAP. That work group helped create this list, which was subsequently approved in the fiscal year 2024-2025 funding plan for clean transportation incentives. ZAP will cover older incentivized vehicles that use the 70% battery state of health milestone for the onboard diagnostic system, also known as OBD, to flag the vehicle's battery if it drops below 70%. Most vehicle manufacturer warranties in the past and currently only replace battery packs or modules after the capacity falls below 70%. If a battery's original capacity, ZAP will use the 70% state of health as a trigger for battery replacement. Staff consulted information available from vehicle manufacturer warranties to understand at what point manufacturers consider premature battery failure and cover replacement. This information indicated that once the battery storage and or vehicle range are below 70% of the original capacity, the battery is replaced. As there aren't many light-duty fuel cell vehicles, the threshold for the decreased power output triggering replacement is not publicly known. The program would defer to manufacturer's threshold for replacement. Additional research during the implementation of the Zero Emission project may change this and set a threshold for the Zero Emission Assurance Program. Eligibility is determined by participation in district and CC4 CARB Clean Cars for All and financing assistance pilot programs. This also includes any participant of the upcoming Drive Clean Assistance Program who purchased a used zero emission vehicle. The zero emission ZAP incentives are limited to one per person instead of per vehicle. AB 193 also mentions income limits that are currently differ from limits CARB has historically used for eligibility in its equity-focused purchase incentive programs. If participants were income eligible at the time of purchase, that will satisfy the income eligibility requirements for ZAP. If because of an individual's involvement in our equity-focused purchase incentives programs, their income has increased, it will not preclude them from the program. Given most of the manufacturer warranties are 10 years and up to 100,000 miles, and that ZAP covers used vehicles, giving clients an extended warranty period of up to 15 years or 200,000 miles should more than cover their needs. In our preliminary research, we found vehicles outside first-generation Nissan Leafs and Toyota Priuses with batteries lasting up to 300,000 miles in hybrids and primarily preliminary EV data used in the Advanced Clean Cars 2 regulation shows with proper charging and maintenance, large EV battery packs can last 300,000 or more miles. The zero-emission or ZAP will provide incentives up to $7,500 to replace premature failure of battery or fuel cell components in the zero-emission vehicle, including labor costs. A second option for participants is to replace their vehicle in lieu of replacing the battery or fuel cell components. The second option will be a grant up to $10,000, but the vehicle will be donated to the program for automotive technician education and training programs that administer training or repair. Repaired vehicles will be then sold on the open used market. ZAP incentivizes incentives to replace the vehicle are stackable with other local or federal programs, but would not be stackable with any other CARB vehicle purchase incentives. Here's staff's initial thinking behind how ZAP may work. ZAP is guided through the lens of the participant's journey throughout the program. This slide, in introduction of one potential route a participant will take to have their vehicle diagnosed and ultimately repaired if needed. The participant suspects issues with their battery or fuel cell component or other system critical components. The participant checks their eligibility for ZAP via a microsite or call center and starts an application. The patient is contacted by a case manager and directed to a ZAP approved diagnostic facility or vehicle diagnosis. Once the vehicle diagnosis is complete and a qualifying issue is confirmed, the diagnostic facility submits supporting documentation to ZAP staff for review. ZAP staff confirms with the nearest repair facility to the participant's location to receive the estimate for repair or repairs. The participant is informed of a clear cost estimate for repairs by their case manager. The case manager will help the participant work through the options, ensuring they are not making decisions without support. With the support of the case manager, the participant will be given two options or routes, soon to be explained, and continues their journey through the program. Route 1 is vehicle repair rebate that would cover up to $7,500 for repairing the vehicle. The participant would be responsible for any costs exceeding this amount. Again, the participant would be informed of the final cost before choosing this option. Route 2, vehicle replacement grant that would cover up to $10,000 for a replacement vehicle. The participant would also have the option to exit the program at this point if they choose to do so. Once the applicant is approved, a repair appointment is scheduled. Repairs are completed and the rebate is paid directly to the location doing the repairs, including parts and labor. Participants are responsible for any repair costs exceeding $7,500. The critical system components are replaced or repaired, and the replaced system critical components are refurbished, repurposed, or recycled. Transportation accommodations are in development to assure that the participant does not experience a gap in reliable transportation. The second route a participant could take is to choose to replace their vehicle instead of repairing critical components. The initial steps of this process mirror the first route. However, once the vehicle has been diagnosed, the participant makes the decision to replace the vehicle. Upon application approval, the participant goes through the DCAP purchase network to acquire a replacement vehicle with a purchase grant up to $10,000 for the donation of the vehicle. The patient donates their qualifying vehicle to the program to be used for workforce training, and any qualifying components are reused, refurbished, repurposed, or recycled. Now, I want to point out that there will be some new terminology that is, well, will be used over the next 3 slides. Some of this terminology might be confusing at first glance, but I will do my best to speak clearly and repeat some concepts and definitions as we travel through this route together. With that being said, let's focus on the continuation of Route 2 and the proposed pathways for the donated vehicle can take as it progresses through the program. The goal of this pathway remains focused on prioritizing the needs for the Zero, ZAP, and DCAP participants while reducing environmental footprint of the donated vehicle, and ultimately provides as many opportunities as possible to keep the vehicle from having to be recycled. With this goal in mind, the team is designing a reuse, component reuse versus vehicle reuse, repurpose and replace network consisting of education training partner projects, workforce training, and third-party opportunities within California. In addition to repair facility vehicle repair diagnosis, the first step in the post-vehicle replacement process is to perform an extensive vehicle component evaluation to determine the most viable pathway the vehicle or its components should take. The donated vehicle components evaluation determination will consist of 4 preliminary recommendations for each component group. Example of component groups are battery pack, battery management system, also known as a BMS, drivetrain, and vehicle shell. The recommendations will be organized in the order of most viable from A to D, with recommendation A being the most viable pathway. Each pathway will be designed and aligned with the state regulations or guidelines. The 4 pathways are 2A, repair. Repairing the vehicle and potentially making it available for program use or resale. 2B, reuse. Component specific. Removing and utilizing functional components from the vehicle to repair other vehicles, educational purposes, refurbishment, or resale. 2C, repurpose. Repurposing vehicle components for educational projects or alternative applications, such as energy storage systems, for example. 2D, recycle. Vehicle retirement. Recycling components that are no longer suitable for other pathways, ensuring responsible end-of-life management within California when possible. Recycling is considered a last resort, and the program acknowledges the challenges of securing a dedicated in-state recycling partner due to the limited number of facilities and regulatory restrictions. Well, let's focus on the first two pathways the donated vehicle components can take. The first pathway is repair. This pathway maximizes the available resources of the repair facility where the vehicle was donated to the repair the vehicle. The available resources will include replacement component stock, labor time, and access to overall education and training partner network. Second pathway is reduce, B. This pathway is reserved for a vehicle that would not be recommended for the repair A pathway. This reuse pathway would involve the removal of functional and non-functional critical components from the vehicle. The approved functional components would be used for repairing any program vehicle that enters or resides at the repair facility and will be stored at a facility or for future use and logged into the educational and training partner network inventory. Refurbishment will take place within the educational and training partner network where possible or sold to local non-participating repair facilities. The main objective is to optimize resource utilization and minimize waste, aligning with the program's commitment to environmental responsibility, and all funds secured from the resale of the donated vehicle or their qualifying components will be distributed back into ZAP program. Now let's focus on the third and fourth pathways. Third pathway is reducing, C. This pathway also maximizes the available resources of the repair facility where the vehicle was donated to populate the education and training partner network inventory for repurposing projects. An example of repurposing projects would be an energy storage backup that is on the repair facility site, near or a robotics project within the education and training partner network. The fourth final pathway is recycle, D. This pathway is reserved for vehicle components that were not recommended for reuse, B, or repurpose, C, and is considered to be the recommendation of last resort. It also serves as a secondary pathway for components that have traveled through the pathway B and C and have reached their respective end of life, EOL. These components will be distributed to yet to be established recycling network within California when possible. 2C, repurpose, involves using approved critical components in educational training programs or for other purposes like energy storage systems or other engineering technology applications. The program is identifying education and training partners and assessing their capability and interest in utilizing EV components. We are also exploring partnerships with research institutes or companies developing energy storage solutions. The program will develop clear guidelines and alignment with partners regarding the use, handling, and eventual disposal of repurposed components. Pathway benefits, providing hands-on learning opportunities for students in green, automotive, and engineering technology programs. contributes to research and development of efforts in areas like energy storage. Demonstrates that programs' commitment to innovation and funding alternative uses for EV critical components. 2D, recycling. Recycling critical components that are no longer suitable for pathways A through C ensures responsible end-of-life management within California when possible. Recycling is considered the last resort, and programs acknowledge the challenges of securing dedicated in-state recycling partner due to the limited number of facilities. The program plans to clearly communicate to stakeholders that recycling is a necessary component of the comprehensive EV end-of-life program, even though it may not align perfectly within the goals of maximizing reuse. Extensive vetting of potential recycling partners will be necessary to ensure they adhere to responsible environmental and safety procedures.
Hey, Michael, we're running really short on time, so we can wrap up the rest of the presentation a little bit more quickly, please.
Yeah, so proposed implementation will be a rolling implementation starting in South Coast, BA, QMD, SAC Metro, San Diego, and then San Joaquin Air Districts. Outside of the current implementation, will be similar to the rollout of DCAP, and will follow that expansion pathway. So next step, staff will be going ahead, looking forward. Staff plans to continue research and discussion of ZAP policies and implementation with stakeholders. Staff will continue holding work groups to discuss ZAP implementation within the goal of launch of the program by late summer this year. And our next work group will be on July 17th. That's a newer piece of information that wasn't at this slide beforehand. But now I'll go ahead and hand it over for questions and comments.
Thank you, Michael. Let's see if we have any questions. We may only be able to take 1 or 2 questions, but I'll let Denise facilitate.
Yes, so again, we're opening up to questions. If you're using Zoom desktop, please click raise hand under the participation tab. On Zoom mobile, tap raise hand in the more tab and press star to raise your hand if you're on phone. You can also email any questions to cleantransportationincentives@arb.ca.gov. I currently don't see any hands up at the moment.
Okay, maybe for the sake of time, we can move on to the next topic.
Okay.
Okay, up next, we have a group of presenters. I'll let them introduce themselves on the heavy duty projects. So I think first up, we will have Inder.
Sure, and we can go ahead and go to the HVIP slides if that's cool.
Next slide.
Next slide, please. And we can go, so I'll be speaking about HVIP, and we can go to the next slide. We only have 1 slide for HVIP today. And just kind of in interest of time, I know Matt has presented a lot of this material already, but hello, I'll just introduce myself. My name is Inder Atwal, and I'm a policy lead for HVIP. As discussed earlier, HVIP is a point of sale discount for heavy duty trucks and buses. But it's been around for quite a while. We've supported a lot of purchases, over 15,000 vehicles and over 1.64 million allocated to date. But the main point of us presenting today is to kind of talk about our recent implementation work group. As of November 2024, project funding has been fully subscribed for HVIP. It's a strong indicator of market interest in the program. We do anticipate actually reopening the program in the 3rd quarter of 2025. This is going to be using limited funds that have become available from canceled and unredeemed vouchers. So we're in the process of preparing for that. At a recent implementation work group, we proposed reintroducing large fleets back into the program with minimal restrictions. That was a change from recent. We recently took them out, so in light of what's going on, we needed to reintroduce them. In addition, we proposed a streamlined voucher system, a streamlined voucher table that took into account both the reintroduction of large fleets and the needs of small businesses. And so the final recommendations will be released in the upcoming HVIP implementation manual, which will be released prior to the reopening of HVIP. So that's going to be happening in the next couple of weeks. And we discussed a lot of this in the recent implementation work group, where we also participated with ISEF and CORE. And I'll go ahead and go to the next slide, and I believe I can hand it off to Brianna.
Hi everyone, I'm Brianna Rocha and I'm the implementation lead for the Innovative Small E-Fleet Pilot Project, or ISEF for short. Some of the information I'm going to cover has already been presented earlier in the funding plan portion of the presentation, but just bear with me. I will clarify the difference between active implementation goals and goals for the funding plan. ISEF will continue to provide funds to expand access to zero-emission vehicles for small fleets, typically by providing innovative solutions such as all-inclusive leases, truck as a service, rentals, and other mechanisms for these fleets. ISEF has been allocated $70 million to date and has funded 118 vouchers. The number of vouchers finalized and the funding release increase as we continue to process the vouchers. ISEF is temporarily closed due to the high demand exhausting the current funds. It is anticipated to reopen in August 2025 following the release of an updated implementation manual and system processing updates. Over the last year, staff has explored new solutions to barriers small fleets face when adopting zero-emission vehicles, such as access to insurance for heavy-duty ZEVs, and how to potentially provide advanced fleet management services for when an entity incorporates a ZEV into their fleet. In addition, staff will continue exploring the potential design of a used truck voucher pilot concept for fiscal year 2025 to 26. The pilot concept would leverage and build upon the broad portfolio of creative, innovative solutions already in ISEF. Staff did hold a work group meeting on these concepts on June 13, 2025. And to clarify, the new options being explored in ISEF will not be included in the updated implementation manual that is planned to be released in the next couple of months. We would anticipate 1 to 2 years to fully develop and implement these ideas. The updated implementation manual will incorporate the new voucher amounts to align with the changes being made in HVIP. There will also be some clarifications on reporting requirements for short-term rental providers and information on the Purchase Plus offering that allows for vehicle purchases when bundled with additional services from a pre-approved list. And now I'll turn it over to Nicole.
Hi, folks. All right, I think I'll take us home and be brief. So this is just an update on the work group as Brandon indicated from last month, just a high-level summary. So I'm the lead for the Clean Off-Road Equipment Voucher Incentive Project, or CORE. Next slide. Alrighty, so CORE is a first come, first served program designed to speed up the deployment of advanced off-road technology by making it easier for fleets to access funding. This access to funding helps cover the higher upfront costs that come with new technologies. We are focused on commercial-ready products that haven't yet gained a big foothold on the market. Next slide. So to date, CORE has been really successful in providing incentive funding for zero-emission off-road equipment. So far, we have funded over 3,000 pieces of equipment and supported more than 700 businesses and fleets. This is all stuff I think Matt covered in his presentation earlier, so I think we can go ahead and move on to the next slide. Perfect. So just a quick summary of implementation manual changes that we are making. Per board direction from last year, CORE will be opening this August with an allocation of 14.97 million from HVIP. And we will be bucketing those funds in 4 different categories. So we have the construction and ag equipment category, then forklifts, cargo handling equipment, transport refrigeration units, and rail car movers and locomotives. The third category is mobile power units and airport ground support equipment. And the final category is commercial harbor craft. We don't, want to keep these groupings going forward, but with the limited budget, this is what we've got to do this year. All right, next slide. Great. Oh, sorry. Other updates include, give me 1 second. Sorry. Apologies, folks. That's working from home with the dog. So other updates include we will be graduating terminal tractors from the program. We will also be limiting eligibility to small businesses and public agencies just for fiscal year 24-25. We don't necessarily want to keep that limitation in place if we get additional funding, but given the current budget situation, we do need to limit things. Also, we are increasing the voucher cap for large forklifts to $1 million. And finally, we're restructuring the equipment eligibility application portions to streamline the process. All right, next slide. So other updates beyond what was conveyed in last year's funding plan, we are including we're shortening the application window from 6 months to 3 months. This is to accommodate application trends that we've seen over time, and then also the fact that we're going to have significantly less funding this time around. We're also making changes for rental and leasing companies, such as a purchaser cannot be their own dealer. We're going to require a lease agreement at voucher redemption, and we'll also require their dealer to submit that is redundant. We are also expanding eligibility to include narrow-body aircraft tugs alongside wide-body tugs, which are already eligible. We are removing the annual user experience reports requirement. These served a purpose early days in the program, but no longer do. And we are going to modify the small business definition. Currently, there's a definition that specifies the number of employees in addition to annual revenue. We're going to simplify this to just look at annual revenue, which is 15 million or less. And finally, we're tightening voucher redemption deadlines. So today, dealers have up to 60 days after a voucher expires to submit materials, but going forward, they need to submit by expiration date. And that concludes my presentation on CORE's IM updates.
Thank you for that presentation, Inder, Brianna, and Nicole. I'll hand it over to Denise to facilitate any questions that might arise from these presentations.
Thank you. So once again, we'll now open the floor for questions. So to ask a question or make a comment using Zoom Desktop, click Raise Hand under the Participants tab. Using Zoom Mobile, tap Raise Hand in the More tab. And if you're calling by phone, please press *2 to raise your hand. You may also email questions to cleantransportationincentives@arb.ca.gov. Please make sure to state your name, affiliation, if any, with your question or comment. Okay. Looks like right now there's no raised hands, and it looks like there hasn't been any questions emailed either.
Thank you, Denise. We also like to open this moment for any general questions. We might have a minute or two, any upcoming meetings, general comments, or community-based organizations that might have an upcoming clean transportation on a mobility event. We're opening up this last Q&A slide for any comments or ideas that the public might have. And hearing none, thank you everybody for your comments, questions, and participation. These ideas always help improve our funding plan programs. Next slide, please. For our wrap up today, we'd like to let you know about the opportunity to make your voice heard in relation to research projects that CARB funds. The CARB Research Division Office has been accepting research comments through a survey as it shapes research for the fiscal year 2026-2027. There are 2 ways to participate. First, you can take the research priority poll and select among 12 priorities or 4 concepts and provide optional comments on items that you're interested in. Or as a second way, you can submit a general comment or concern about air quality or climate in your region or community, and staff will be able to drop the link in the chat for this poll. I'd like to close up with a quick reminder that these evening communities are held every 3rd Tuesday of the month, excluding the month of November due to the funding plan being presented to the board. And as mentioned earlier, June and July are the most intensive months to collaborate with you to develop their proposed funding plan. In August, we'll discuss the draft ideas in a workshop and recap that at an evening community meeting a few days later. Staff will then write the proposed plan and post it to the website on October 10th, when you have the opportunity to review and comment on the plan for 30 days. We'll have an evening community meeting on October 21st to discuss the proposed plan and answer your questions and listen to your comments. We'll present the proposed plan and hear verbal comments at the November 20th board meeting. To join any of the meetings, please visit our events page. Staff will also drop the link in the chat. And as a reminder, these events are recorded and you will also be able to see the recordings on the website. Before we end, I also like to remind everyone that we have an open door policy, especially for those most affected by our incentive programs. We encourage you to contact us to request meetings with staff and discuss your needs, concerns, and potential solutions. We have an online form to request a one-on-one meeting. The link will be shared in the chat, and it's a tiny URL because the URL is very long with special characters. So we'll be dropping that tiny URL just now. You can also reach our team via email at any of the emails listed on the slide or on our main email at cleantransportationincentives@arb.ca.gov. Staff will also drop the link to this email in the chat. Another way to stay informed is to join our listservs, email signups, meeting calendars, and our one meeting request form. We are here to listen and do our best to help. Thank you again for attending tonight's evening community meeting. And for next time, it will be Adelina and Noemi who will be facilitating these. It was nice seeing you all today, and have a good rest of your evening.